The fluorescent lights above flickered slightly, casting a sterile glow in the delivery room where Anna lay, her heart racing with anticipation. The rhythmic beeping of the monitor was the only sound that filled the air, punctuating the silence that enveloped the room. She glanced at her husband, Jack, who sat stiffly beside her, his brow furrowed in concentration as he stared at the doorway. The excitement she felt was palpable, yet a tension simmered just below the surface, an unspoken worry that seemed to hang in the air between them. "Anna, you're doing great," Jack said, forcing a smile as he reached for her hand. His grip was firm, but his eyes betrayed his anxiety. "The doctor will be here any minute." "I know," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She could feel the contractions intensifying, each wave of pain reminding her of the life about to enter the world. A surge of hope washed over her. She couldn't wait to hold their baby, to see what features he would inherit from both of them. "I just can't believe it's almost time." Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, and Anna's excitement began to wane, replaced by a creeping doubt. Jack's gaze shifted constantly, and she could sense his restlessness. "What's wrong?" she asked, searching his face for answers. "Nothing. Just," he hesitated, glancing at the door again. "I'm just ready for this to be over. I want to see our baby. Aren't you excited?" Anna pressed, her heart sinking a little at his lack of enthusiasm. "We've waited so long for this moment." "Of course I am," he replied quickly, but the tension in his voice told her otherwise. Anna decided to let it go. This was a moment meant for joy, not doubt. With a deep breath, she closed her eyes, focusing on the rhythm of her breathing, visualizing the child they had created together. Suddenly, the doors swung open, and the doctor entered with a confident stride. "Good evening, Anna. Ready to meet your little one?" Dr. Stevens asked, pulling on a pair of gloves. The warm smile on his face was infectious, and Anna felt a rush of relief. "Yes, I can't wait," she exclaimed, her excitement reigniting. As the doctor prepared for the delivery, Anna felt a powerful surge of determination. She squeezed Jack's hand tightly, and he responded by nodding, finally locking eyes with her. "We can do this," he said, a hint of warmth returning to his voice. "I know we can," she replied, feeling a bond of reassurance growing between them. Hours later, the moment arrived. With one final push, Anna gasped as the doctor announced, "It's a boy." Ecstasy enveloped her as the cries of her newborn filled the room. Jack's face lit up with joy, but as Anna held the tiny bundle in her arms, her heart skipped a beat. She looked down at her son, cradled against her chest, and her breath caught in her throat. The stark contrast of his skin against her pale arms was shocking. Confusion washed over her like a cold wave, and for a fleeting moment, she wondered if it was merely the hospital's harsh lighting playing tricks on her. "He's beautiful," Anna whispered, but there was an unsettling dissonance in her voice. Jack stepped closer, his eyes widening in disbelief as he caught sight of their son. The joy that had just graced his face morphed into horror within seconds. "What the hell is this?" he spat, his voice trembling with disbelief. "Jack, what do you mean?" Anna's heart sank as she sensed the shift in his demeanor. He took a step back, his face contorting as if he had been slapped. "This isn't my son," he accused, his voice rising. "You've been unfaithful. How could you do this to me?" "What? No. Jack, listen to me," she pleaded, the panic rising in her chest. "This doesn't make any sense. We need to talk about this." "Talk? There's nothing to talk about," Jack shouted, his eyes filled with betrayal. "You've ruined everything." Anna felt her world crumbling around her. "Jack, please. I don't understand. You're scaring me," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I love you, and I love our son. This doesn't change that." But Jack's face was set in stone, and he turned on his heel, storming out of the room without another word. The door slammed shut behind him, leaving Anna alone with the baby, whose cries echoed in the now silent room. Her heart shattered as realization dawned upon her. She was alone. In that moment, the weight of her new reality crashed down on her, and the joy of motherhood felt like a distant memory. Anna sat alone in the stark, sterile hospital room, the soft beeping of machines the only sound accompanying her swirling thoughts. The walls, painted a muted shade of blue, felt like they were closing in on her, just as the weight of Jack's accusations pressed heavily on her chest. She cradled her newborn son, Elijah, wrapped in a soft white blanket, the contrast of his deep brown skin against the fabric magnifying the chasm that had suddenly opened in her life. The joy of motherhood she had anticipated was overshadowed by confusion and despair. "Why did he leave?" she whispered to herself, her voice barely above a breath. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes as she remembered Jack's face twisting in horror instead of the joy she had expected. The images replayed in her mind like a cruel film loop. Jack's anger, the disbelief etched across his features, the accusations that cut deeper than any physical wound. She had thought their love was strong enough to weather any storm, but now she felt like a ship lost at sea, tossed about by waves of betrayal and shame. Anna's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. A nurse entered, her expression warm yet tinged with pity. "How are you doing, Anna?" she asked gently, her voice soothing like balm on a fresh wound. I'm okay," Anna replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I just need some time." The nurse nodded, understanding the unspoken turmoil. "If you need anything, just press the button. You're not alone in this." With that, she left, the door clicking softly behind her, leaving Anna once again in solitude. As the hours dragged on, the hospital room felt like a prison. She held Elijah close, inhaling the sweet, baby scent that was somehow both comforting and bittersweet. "You deserve so much better than this," she murmured, pressing her lips to his forehead. "I'll figure this out. I promise." But how could she keep that promise when her own world felt so shattered? Later that day, after being discharged, Anna found herself standing in front of her apartment door, a wave of anxiety washing over her. The thought of facing her friends and family, their judgmental gazes and whispered doubts, made her stomach twist. Would they believe her? Would they see her as the unfaithful woman Jack had painted her to be? Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open, the familiar scent of home mixing with the fear that loomed over her like a storm cloud. "Hey, Anna, you're back," her friend Lisa called from the living room, her voice cheerful yet faltering when she saw the blank expression on Anna's face. "How did everything go? Is the baby okay?" Anna hesitated, unsure how to respond. "Elijah is healthy," she finally said, her voice shaky. But there were some complications. She felt the weight of her words as they hung in the air, the tension palpable. Lisa stepped closer, her brow furrowing. "What do you mean? Complications?" Taking a deep breath, Anna felt the dam of her emotions crack. "Jack, he left. He doesn't want anything to do with us because of Elijah." The words tumbled out, raw and unfiltered, as if speaking them would somehow make the reality less painful. A silence fell over the room, and Anna could see the gears turning in Lisa's mind. "But how? He was so excited about the baby," Lisa finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. He thinks I cheated on him," Anna replied, her voice breaking. "He can't accept that our son is black." The words hung heavy in the air, and Anna felt the judgment creeping in, not just from Jack, but from the world around her. The silence morphed into a cacophony of unasked questions and unwanted opinions. Over the next few weeks, as the reality of single motherhood settled in, Anna found herself spiraling into a dark pit of loneliness and self-doubt. Friends who once surrounded her now seemed distant. Family gatherings turned into awkward encounters, each interaction laced with whispers and sidelong glances. How could she let this happen? She imagined them thinking. What kind of mother is she? The stigma felt like a brand on her soul, and she began to question her worth, not just as a mother, but as a woman. Despite the overwhelming pain, a flicker of determination ignited within Anna. She refused to let Elijah grow up in a world where he felt less than whole. She began attending support groups for single mothers, seeking solace and strength from those who shared her struggle. Each session was a blend of tears and laughter, a reminder that she was not alone in her fight. "I want to raise him with love, no matter what," she declared one evening, her voice steady. He deserves to know he is perfect just as he is. The other mothers nodded in agreement, their eyes shining with understanding. They shared their own stories of resilience, and with each tale, Anna felt a little more empowered. She was building a community, a network of women who would stand by her side, reminding her of her strength and the love that would guide her through the tumultuous journey ahead. As the weeks passed, Anna embraced her new reality with a fierce commitment. She would raise Elijah with love, courage, and the unwavering belief that he was deserving of every opportunity. Together, they would navigate the world, and Anna vowed to show him the beauty of their bond, the power of acceptance, and the strength that comes from embracing one's true identity. Years passed, and Anna had transformed her life into a tapestry of love and resilience, weaving every thread with the sacrifices she made for her son, Elijah. The walls of their small apartment were adorned with pictures of a smiling Elijah at various stages of his childhood, each snapshot a testament to her determination to create a nurturing environment despite the shadows of her past. Anna worked tirelessly at the local community center, juggling multiple jobs to ensure that Elijah had everything he needed. She often reminded herself every moment counts as she rushed through her days, driven by an unwavering love for her son. Elijah was now a curious and intelligent boy, with an infectious laugh that brightened every room he entered. He was bright, often surprising Anna with his insightful questions about the world around him. But as he grew, so did his awareness of the differences that set him apart from his peers. One sunny afternoon, while they were preparing for a school event, Anna noticed Elijah's demeanor shift. He sat at the kitchen table, his brow furrowed in concentration as he absent-mindedly traced the outline of his hand against the paper. "Mom," he began hesitantly, "why do some kids say I look different?" His voice was small, almost swallowed by the weight of confusion and hurt. The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Anna's heart sank. She had known this day would come, but the reality of it struck her like a hard blow. "Elijah, sometimes people don't understand what's different about others. They can be unkind because they're scared or because they've been taught to see differences as something negative," she gently explained, sitting down beside him. "But it doesn't change who you are or how much you're loved." "Why do they have to be mean?" he asked, his eyes wide with a mix of innocence and frustration. Anna felt the tears prick at the corners of her eyes, struggling to formulate a response that would soothe his burgeoning awareness of the world's complexities. "People are complicated, sweetheart. Sometimes they don't know how to be kind," she replied, wrapping her arms around him. "But you have to remember, you're special. You have a beautiful heart, and that's what matters most." Elijah nodded, though he didn't seem fully convinced. Anna watched as he turned his gaze to the window, his expression a mixture of contemplation and vulnerability. She wished she could shield him from the harsh realities of the world, but she also understood that he needed to learn to navigate it. Later that week, during a school event, Anna stood at the edge of the playground, her heart heavy as she observed Elijah interacting with other children. Some played happily, while others seemed to exclude him from their games. She felt an overwhelming urge to intervene, but she also knew that he needed to learn to stand on his own feet. "Hey, Elijah, come play with us," a girl called, breaking through Anna's thoughts. Relief washed over her as she saw him run towards the group, laughter spilling from his lips. But the moment was fleeting. As the game progressed, Anna noticed a couple of children whispering and pointing at him, their expressions laced with confusion and, at times, disdain. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the playground, Anna's heart ached. She knew she couldn't change the world overnight, but she wanted to equip Elijah with the tools to embrace his identity. That evening, while they prepared dinner together, she decided to seek out someone who could help, someone who understood the challenges they faced. "Mom, can we talk about school?" Elijah asked, his voice a mere whisper as he stirred the pot of spaghetti. Anna felt a knot in her stomach but nodded, encouraging him to continue. "Some kids keep saying things about me. I don't know how to make them stop," he confessed, his eyes downcast. Anna felt a surge of protectiveness, wishing she could shield him from the pain of rejection. "Let's talk to Ms. Thompson. She's your teacher, right?" Anna suggested, remembering how kind she had been during parent-teacher conferences. Maybe she can help us find a way to talk about it. Do you think she'll understand? Elijah asked, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. I believe she will, Anna said, her voice steady. She wants all her students to feel safe and valued. You're not alone in this, Elijah. We'll face it together. With that promise hanging in the air, Anna felt a renewed sense of hope. She knew that they would navigate the complexities of identity and acceptance together, and with Ms. Thompson's support, perhaps Elijah could learn to embrace his uniqueness with pride. As they finished dinner, the warmth of their bond enveloped them, a reminder that love could indeed conquer the darkest of fears. Elijah had grown significantly, both in stature and in understanding of the world around him. One sunny Saturday afternoon, he and Anna sat together on the living room floor, surrounded by a sea of old family photographs. The light streamed through the window, illuminating their faces as they flipped through the memories captured in faded images. Anna smiled at moments frozen in time. Birthday parties, family outings, and candid shots of Elijah giggling with friends. However, it was one particular photograph that caught Elijah's attention, a picture of Anna and Jack, taken just before the birth of their son. Mom, who's this? Elijah asked, his brow furrowing as he pointed to Jack's familiar face in the photograph. Anna's heart sank, the weight of unspoken truth suddenly heavy in the air. That's your dad, she replied, her voice steady but laced with an underlying tension. She watched as Elijah's expression shifted from curiosity to confusion. Why have I never met him? Elijah's voice was soft, but the question hung in the air like a thundercloud, charged with emotion. Anna hesitated, her mind racing. She had always wanted to protect him from the pain of Jack's abandonment, yet here was her son, a boy on the precipice of adolescence, seeking answers about his father. Sometimes, things don't go as we hope, Anna finally said, her throat tightening. Your dad was overwhelmed when you were born. He didn't know how to handle it, and he left. Elijah's eyes filled with a mixture of anger and sadness. He left? Just like that? The disbelief in his voice struck Anna like a physical blow. That's right, she said softly, wishing she could shield him from the harshness of reality. It was a difficult time for both of us. Did he ever love me? The question cut deep, and Anna felt the ache of her own unresolved feelings bubbling to the surface. Yes, Elijah, he loved you, but he was scared. And scared people sometimes make terrible choices. She reached out, brushing her fingers through his hair, trying to soothe him. But you are loved, so deeply. I love you more than anything in this world. Why would he be scared? Elijah pressed, his voice rising slightly. I don't understand. I'm just a kid. Why couldn't he just be here? Anna took a deep breath, wanting to convey the complexity of emotions wrapped up in Jack's departure. People have their own struggles, sweetheart. Sometimes they don't know how to handle them. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong or that you aren't worthy of love. Elijah remained silent for a moment, his thoughts swirling as he processed her words. Do you ever think about him? About what it would be like if he were here? Anna's heart ached at the innocence in his question. Sometimes I do, but I focus on us, on our family. You and I have built something beautiful together. Elijah turned to look at her, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears. But what if I want to meet him? What if I want to know him? The request hung in the air, weighty and profound. Anna felt a rush of conflicting emotions, fear, anger, sadness, and a glimmer of hope. She knew this moment would come, the day when Elijah would seek answers that could lead them down a path neither of them had prepared for. Meeting him could be complicated, Elijah, she said carefully. He made a choice to leave, and that choice hurt us both. But if you truly want to meet him, I won't stop you. I just need you to understand that it might not go the way you hope. Elijah looked down, the gravity of the situation settling over him. I just want to understand why, he whispered, more to himself than to her. Anna nodded, the weight of his desire pressing heavily on her heart. I understand, and I'll support you no matter what you decide. Just know that I'm here for you, always. The conversation lingered in the air, a fragile thread of connection between mother and son. They sat together in silence, surrounded by memories that now felt tainted by the truth, but also by the love they had cultivated. A love that had withstood the trials of abandonment and prejudice. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the room, Anna contemplated the possibility of reaching out to Jack. The thought filled her with apprehension, but also a flicker of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, this journey could lead to closure, not just for Elijah, but for her as well. And as she glanced at her son, she realized that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, bound by their love and resilience. Anna sat on the edge of her bed, her fingers nervously tracing the outline of her phone. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow through the window, but inside her, a storm raged. She had spent years building a life for herself and Elijah, filled with love and resilience. But now she was on the brink of reopening a chapter she had tried to close. The thought of contacting Jack sent shivers down her spine, but she knew it was time. Elijah deserved answers, and perhaps a chance to understand his father. With a deep breath, she dialed Jack's number. The phone rang, and each tone echoed her apprehension. When Jack finally answered, his voice was low and hesitant. "Hello? Jack, it's Anna." Her voice wavered slightly, a mixture of nerves and determination. "Anna, why are you calling?" There was a pause, and she could hear the unspoken weight of their shared past hanging in the air. "I think it's time we talked. About Elijah." The mere mention of their son's name seemed to alter the atmosphere on the other end. She could feel Jack's reluctance, the tension palpable even through the phone. Is he okay?" Jack finally asked, his tone softening just a fraction. "He's thriving, Jack. He's such a bright boy. But he's been asking about you, and I think he deserves to know his father," Anna said, her heart racing as she spoke. There was a long silence, and Anna could almost hear the gears turning in Jack's mind as he weighed his options. I don't know if I'm ready for this," he admitted, vulnerability creeping into his voice. "I understand, but it's important. For both of you." Anna pressed on, feeling a surge of resolve. "I just want Elijah to have the chance to meet you, to understand who you are, even if it's complicated." Jack sighed heavily, the sound filled with regret and uncertainty. "Okay, I'll meet you and him, but I need time to process this." Anna felt a mix of relief and trepidation at his agreement. "Thank you, Jack. We can meet at the park. It's a neutral place." After hanging up, Anna's heart raced with anticipation and dread. She spent the next few days preparing Elijah for the meeting, trying to gauge his feelings while carefully managing her own anxiety. "Mom, do you think he'll like me?" Elijah asked one evening, his eyes wide with innocence. Anna knelt beside him, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "Of course he will, sweetheart. You're amazing. Just be yourself." "Will he be nice to us?" Elijah's question cut deeper than Anna expected. "I hope so, but remember, it's okay if he isn't. You are loved, and that's what matters most." On the day of the meeting, Anna felt both anxious and hopeful. As they arrived at the park, she spotted Jack sitting on a bench, his posture stiff and guarded. He looked older than she remembered, shadows under his eyes revealing the weight of his choices. "Mom, is that him?" Elijah asked, tugging at her hand, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, that's him," Anna replied, her heart pounding. As they approached, Jack's gaze shifted from Anna to Elijah, and Anna could see a whirlwind of emotions cross his face. Confusion, guilt, and a flicker of something that resembled hope. Elijah, with his innocent curiosity, stepped forward, a small smile forming on his lips. "Hi, I'm Elijah," he said, extending a hand. Jack hesitated, his eyes welling with unshed tears. After a moment, he reached out, his handshake tentative. "Hi, Elijah. I'm your dad." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Elijah's smile faltered, and he looked up at Anna, seeking reassurance. "Is it okay?" he asked softly. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just be you," Anna replied, her heart aching for the boy who had faced so many questions. Jack cleared his throat, his voice trembling slightly. I'm sorry for everything. I should have been there for you both." Anna felt a surge of emotions, but chose to remain composed. You walked away, Jack. You left us when we needed you the most. There was a fire in her voice, a protective shield for her son. I know, Jack said, his voice breaking. I was scared. I didn't know how to handle it, and I was ashamed. Elijah, observing the exchange with wide eyes, interjected, Why didn't you want to meet me before? Jack looked down, shame washing over him. I was afraid of what I might see, of the mistakes I made. I didn't want to hurt you both again. Anna watched her son, feeling the weight of the moment. Elijah, with his innocence, was the bridge between their fractured past and a possible future. She hoped this meeting could be the first step toward healing, but as she glanced at Jack, she knew they were still standing on shaky ground, each grappling with their own demons. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the park, Anna and Elijah sat on a weathered wooden bench, waiting for Jack. The air was thick with anticipation and unspoken words. Anna felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had spent years building a life for herself and Elijah alone. And now, facing the man who had shattered their family, she was overwhelmed by a mix of hope and trepidation. When Jack finally arrived, his presence was both familiar and foreign. He stood awkwardly a few paces away, his hands shoved into his pockets, his eyes darting between Anna and Elijah. Anna felt Elijah tense beside her, sensing the weight of the moment. Dad? Elijah called out, his voice wavering slightly. The innocence in his tone made Jack flinch, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Hey, buddy, Jack replied, his voice thick with emotion. He stepped closer, swallowed by the tumult of feelings he had suppressed for so long. As Elijah approached, Jack knelt down, his gaze locked on the boy's face. You've grown, he finally managed, his words laced with a mixture of awe and regret. Yeah, well, I've been waiting for you, Elijah said, a hint of defiance in his tone. Anna watched the exchange, her heart pounding. She had prepared herself for this moment, yet seeing Elijah confront his father brought a rush of emotions to the surface. Jack's eyes glistened with tears as he took in the boy's features. His dark skin, the curl of his hair, and the spark of intelligence in his eyes. As they settled into an uneasy silence, Anna decided it was time to break the ice. Jack, she began, her voice steady despite the tremor within. We need to talk. About everything. Jack nodded, guilt etched across his face. I know I've been a coward, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know how to handle it. I thought I was protecting myself, us. Anna's heart ached at his words. But you didn't protect us, Jack. You abandoned us. You left me to figure it all out alone. The pain in her voice was palpable, and Jack flinched under the weight of her accusation. I had to learn how to be both a mother and a father to Elijah. I had to teach him to love himself in a world that often didn't. I can't change what I did, Jack replied, his voice cracking. I was scared. I didn't understand, but I want to try to be better, if you'll let me. Just then, Elijah, who had been quietly absorbing the conversation, spoke up. Why did you leave us, Dad? Was it because of me? His eyes were wide with vulnerability, and Anna felt a wave of protectiveness wash over her son. No, Elijah, Jack rushed to say, his expression a mix of anguish and remorse. It wasn't your fault. I was afraid of the unknown. I grew up in a world that taught me to fear what was different. He looked at Anna, desperation in his eyes. But I see that now. I see how wrong I was. As the conversation unfolded, Anna sensed a shift in Jack, a flicker of understanding igniting in the depths of his soul. I've been doing some soul-searching since you reached out, Anna, he confessed. My family has a history of mixed-race heritage that I never accepted. I was raised to think it was something to be ashamed of. I denied my own blood, and in doing so, I denied you and Elijah. Anna felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean? She asked, her curiosity piqued. Jack took a deep breath and recounted a family story, one that had been buried beneath layers of shame and denial. My grandmother, she had a child with a black man. I was always told to keep that a secret. I thought I was protecting my family's reputation, but in reality, I was just perpetuating a cycle of hate and ignorance. Elijah's brow furrowed as he listened intently. So, I'm not the only one, he asked quietly, struggling to comprehend the implications. No, you're not, Jack replied, emotion thick in his throat. And I'm sorry. I should have embraced you, both of you, instead of running away. He looked directly at Anna, his eyes pleading for forgiveness. I was wrong to judge you, to judge Elijah, based on fear. Anna felt a mixture of sadness and hope. It's going to take time, Jack. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight, she cautioned. But if you're truly committed to being a part of Elijah's life, you need to confront your past and be open to healing. I will, Jack promised, determination flooding his voice. I want to learn. I want to understand. I'm ready to be the father Elijah deserves and the man I want to be. As the sun began to set, casting golden hues across the park, Anna took a deep breath. She felt the weight of the past lifting, replaced by the possibility of a new beginning. She turned to Elijah, who looked at her with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. They shared a silent understanding, a promise to navigate this complex journey together, no matter the challenges that lay ahead. In that moment, Anna realized that their story was just beginning. With love and resilience, they could forge a path toward healing, acceptance, and a future filled with possibilities.